Thank you. As stated by Beverly Danielle Tatum, the concept of identity is a complex one, shaped by individual characteristics, family dynamics, historical factors, and social and political contexts. Who am I? The answer depends on large part who the world around me says I am. Who do my parents say I am? Who do my peers say I am? What message is reflected back to me in the faces and voices of my teachers, my neighbors, and store clerks? What do I learn from the media about myself? How am I represented in the cultural images around me? Or am I missing from the picture altogether? Biracial. Having parents or ancestors from different racial or ethnic backgrounds, deriving from or made up of two races, also referred to as mixed. In 2020, the percentage of people who reported multiple races changed more than all of the race-alone groups, increasing from 2.9%, or about 9 million people in 2010, to 10.2% of the population, or about 33.8 million people in 2020. I'm biracial. My father Black, my mother white. My parents divorced when I was 8. My mother raised me, my white mother. So why the emphasis on white mother? Because I was raised in white culture, appearing as I do. I grew up with access to a multitude of things, various forms of social capital, social supports, opportunities. Don't get me wrong, we struggled financially, but we were advantaged. On the paternal side of things, my father had an 8th grade education. My grandmother was unlettered, meaning that she never learned to read or write. She never learned to drive either. I have been referred to as a zebra, an Oreo, as high yellow. I've been told that I have good hair. I've been told that upon the announcement of my status as in utero, that the idea of a mixed grandchild was appalling and unacceptable within the family system. I was othered before I was born. My very existence pushes the boundaries of race. I do not fit into any box. I disrupt the dichotomy of black and white. My existence is a resistance to the idea of race. So I cut all of my good hair off. I speak about colorism. I talk about race. I talk about diversity and inclusion. I have given birth to 2 wonderful children who are 1/4 black, again, disrupting the dichotomy. I date men of various racial and ethnic backgrounds. I am an example of exogamy. Further, I disrupt the ideas of exceptionalism and tokenism because I recognize them. I talk about them. I refuse to be better than them. I refuse to be successful simply due to my racial identities. Daughter. A girl or woman in relation to one or both of her parents. So I'm firstborn, Generation X, though depending on which chart you look at, they may name me as millennial, geriatric that is. However, I claim Gen X. So again, contrary in my birth date as well. I'm the only child to my father. I was also introduced to my first addicted loved one upon my entry into the world, my daddy. First grandchild on my mother's side. Yeah, we know where this is going. I'm the oldest. My parents were involved in an interracial relationship. They were naive and in love. They married young. I was the product. Contrary to that, I've occupied the role of stepdaughter. This is defined as a daughter of one's wife or husband by a former partner. I eventually became part of a blended family. Ability. In the United States, more than 48.9 million folks have at least one form of disability. That's 1 in 5 Americans, y'all. Amblyopia, also known as lazy eye, is characterized by the misalignment of the eyes, where one eye may turn in, out, up, or down, causing the brain to favor the other eye. This is a vision disorder that typically develops in early childhood, as it did for me. Lazy eye is present in approximately 2 to 4% of the United States population. Terrible. I am still not comfortable with this identity. I struggle, and I struggle, and I struggle with it. However, I've become a public speaker. I do this for a living, literally. I began performing at a young age: gymnastics, band, choir, color guard, dance, cheer, very visible activities. In fact, I've been on a stage of some sort as long as I can remember. Standing in front of people while donning a lazy eye is frightening. Being asked to take a photo, oh my gosh, my hands are sweating. I continue to work on this. Sister, a female who has the same parent as another person. So my only sibling, a brother, is 11 years younger than I am. He has a different father than I do, a white father. Yes, Shaw, my beloved brother is a white man. He and I are on two extremely different life journeys for many reasons. But it's not uncommon for children to live with siblings who share just one biological parent. In fact, 1 in 6 children under 18 live with a half-sibling, according to the US Census Bureau. I pose yet another contradiction here, as I have been welcomed to a sister circle. None of these women are blood relatives. They are, in fact, fictive kin. Choosing to be part of this sisterhood, while contrary to the idea of family via bloodline, is one of the best contradictions that I am part of. It is not without its challenges, however, but I make the choice to sustain this connection each and every day. Woman typically refers to an adult female. Generally expected to dress in typically feminine ways and be polite, accommodating, and nurturing. I have long been this person, this woman, feminine, ladylike, the damsel in distress, dependent on other people for approval, especially that of men. Somewhat quiet, even maybe a touch submissive, what society views as appropriate for a woman. I have often presented myself in a palatable manner. I'm thin, pretty, well-dressed, make-upped. I've been named as articulate. I've been kind and caring, people-pleasing, often to my own detriment. I've also fallen into the idea that women should compete with one another, that we should gossip and be catty. As I continue to evolve, I understand that I have been held down by these descriptors and behaviors. I have operated as a stifled woman for years. I have been constrained. I have struggled with confidence, body image, saying no, setting boundaries, so many internal sacrifices, so many conflicts. I have essentially denied parts of myself due to the ideas of what a woman should be. However, womanhood involves the assertion of agency and empowerment, allowing individuals to make choices about their lives, their bodies, careers, and relationships. This empowerment often involves challenging societal norms, advocating for gender equality, and supporting other women. These qualities represent a rejection of societal constraints and an embrace of personal freedom and autonomy. Being unapologetic, liberated, empowered, and assertive involves living authentically and confidently without fear of judgment or reprisal. I now describe myself as this woman: authentic, independent, vocal, assertive, liberated, empowered, and unapologetic. I wear big, bold, bright colors, sequins, puffed sleeves, funky patterns. I wear tennis shoes with professional attire, large, gaudy earrings. I say things that go against the grain. I call people out on their expectations of me and of others. I no longer people please by default. Mother, a woman in relation to her child or children. I became a mother at the tender age of 20. My son was born first, a daughter almost 4 years later. My children present differently. My son has a complexion that favors my own. He's seen as a black man. My daughter passes for white, meaning that visibly she does not exert much melanin. She struggles with reconciling herself as black. To aid them along their journeys, I have had to advise them differently. My son, the talk, interactions with law enforcement, clothing, attire, use of language, the perceptions of others. My daughter, beauty standards, the pay gap, slut-shaming, body autonomy, and friendships. The list goes on and on. Though very different, both of these conversations have centered on identity. Again, I push back against the norm here as a mother, maintaining an openness with both of my children no matter their differences. This is my favorite identity. Wife, a married woman considered in relation to her spouse. Y'all, I finally found my person, someone to share with, build a home, a family, a teammate, a partner, new experiences, security. We were so good together, parented two extremely involved children, concerted cultivation. We stepped in as coaches and troop leaders. We served as the carpool parents. We were it, the ideal family. I come from a long line of addiction. As it turns out, I married an addict. He relapsed after 15 years of sobriety. We had never seen him in active addiction. Over 20 million Americans suffer from a substance use disorder. Less than 10% of these folks will seek help. Addiction is brutal, y'all. Addiction involves exactly the opposite of everything marriage represents. Instead of operating as a unit, as one, addiction undermined the foundations of trust, communication, and mutual support, and these are essential for a strong and healthy relationship. Our marriage very quickly became characterized by infidelity. Research from the past 2 decades shows that between 20 and 25% of married men cheat, and 10 and 15% of married women cheat. Domestic violence. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. Toxic and illegal behaviors, grief, pain, and loss. Empty nester. A parent whose children have grown up and left the home. According to the 2020 census, there are 22.5 million empty nesters in the United States. I've been in an empty nest for almost 1.5 years. Having the close relationship that I do with my children, this was initially a shock. Motherhood is a valued and respected role. An empty nest suggests that I am no longer relevant, that I am old and no longer useful within the parenting arena. A mother is not a mother without her children. Let me just say that I felt this initially. However, I've adjusted rather well to an empty nest. I feel liberated, yet I have struggled coming to understand that doing for me is not selfish. This is difficult, as that is contrary to everything that a mother is supposed to be. Divorcee, a divorced person. Every 42 seconds, there is a divorce in America. This equates to 86 divorces per hour, 2,046 divorces per day, 14,364 divorces per week, and 746,971 divorces per year. Women lead in divorce filing at nearly 70%, with college-educated women at 90%. I am semi-divorced. I am even contrary to a completely divorced person, y'all. I am at the mercy of others. I am in dissolution limbo, waiting, not so patiently. Even my name is posted for this TEDx event is in resistance. My maiden name is in parentheses as I am not yet able to claim it. I'm waiting for permission to be myself. The most difficult part of owning the title of divorcee is indicative of me being a failure at relationships, that I am bad within this realm. Y'all, I thrive on connection. I'm a social worker. This one is still difficult for me to accept. Professional. Working and behaving in such a way that others think of them as competent, reliable, and respected. I present challenges to the idea of professionalism too. I'm a late bloomer. I was a non-traditional student, and in 2019, 33.4% of post-secondary students identified as non-traditional. I got a late start within my field, so to say. However, I'm good at it. In fact, I'm great. I hit the ground running. I am explosive within my work. More than my late entry into the field serves as a not so likely to be professional or successful label, so does that of my experiences with addiction, incarceration, mental health, abuse, an absent father, financial struggles, racial differences, and the like. I have so much in common with those deemed as unprofessional. The conundrum here, I am not supposed to be an award-winning professional. Advocate, a person who represents another person's interests, a person who speaks or writes in support or defense of a person, cause, etc. So here we are, the reason why I'm here. Why have I told you these things about me? Why have I spilled my guts to you all, possibly alienating people who love me? Do I want pity? Am I seeking reparations? Well, no, of course not. I am an advocate through and through. All the things that I've experienced and will continue to inform my purpose. I am vocal. Many times the things that I say are unpopular. I disrupt the dichotomy. I speak and behave in ways that dismantle the system. My passion is to connect with others, to help others understand that no matter how much our identities conflict with the norms and the status quo, we are worthy. Metamorphosis. During this stage, the caterpillar undergoes profound changes as it transitions into a butterfly or moth. The breakdown of the old caterpillar body and the formation of the new creature involves the reorganization of tissues, the development of new structures like wings, and the rearrangement of internal organs. Inside a chrysalis, a caterpillar's body digests itself from the inside out. The same juices it used to digest food as a larva, it now uses to break down its own body. Eventually, the caterpillar emerges from the cocoon as a fully formed butterfly or moth, ready to take flight and begin its adult life stage. Renaissance, a French word meaning rebirth. As I speak to difference, it is shaped who I am. It is who I am. Different, unique, refined, vibrant, resistant, renaissanced. I've listed many examples in which I was wrong, it was bad, frowned upon, against the grain, unheard of, not an option. An ideal of the country that I was brought up in maintains that individuality is encouraged and supported. Yet I've listed numerous accounts of how my individuality, uniqueness, my authenticity has disrupted and will continue to almost every facet of societal norms, dichotomies, structures, representations, and the like. There are times, and there will be again, that I wanted to give up. I wanted nothing to do with this life, that I felt as though my body was digesting from the inside out. Here before you today stands an emerging butterfly. I would also like to note that there are other ways in which I disrupt every idea of what should be or is not. My very existence is a resistance. However, I persist. As I was introduced, you were asked to attempt at separating the LaShawna you believe you know from the one standing in front of you in this time and in this place. For those who have never met me, you were asked to throw out all of your preconceived notions and assumptions. I didn't ask you this to trap you or point fingers. I did this in an attempt to create empathy and connection. We all have belief systems. We all make judgments based on what we know. I hope that today's discussion spurs self-reflection. Think of a time when you hoped that you were seen as your authentic self. Reflect back on your thoughts of me and a few of my named identities. Now consider giving grace to those whom you encounter, and most importantly, to yourselves. If you take anything away today, let it be this: you are not alone. You matter. Wear your labels, your identities, contrary, authentically, for the world to see you are beautiful, and there are no apologies necessary. I wish you all well on this journey. I will be celebrating your renaissance from afar. Your identities serve as your ultimate source of power. Thank you.